This felling foot makes a really easy job of putting your fabrics together and encasing them completely. Let's take a peek at the bottom of this fabric. If you don't know what flat felled stitches are, look at jeans maybe that you wear. What it does is it gives you the ability to be able to join two pieces of fabric together, and it's just as beautiful on the inside as it is on the outside. So let's take a look at the foot and see how that helps aid making that stitching perfect. When you look at the bottom of the foot, you'll notice that there is a lift here in the bottom, which will allow your fabric to be folded and come through. And this little flange out in front of the foot is what guides the fabric as it's coming through. So I've taken a piece of fabric and I've seamed it together in a 5/8 of an inch hem. And the trick to this stitch and getting it to work well is by stitching first a 5/8 of an inch hem, and then what you want to do is you want to press that seam to one side, which I'm doing right now. And once you've pressed it to one side, what you're going to be doing is identifying the lower seam allowance, which here is on this side. And then what I need to do is take a pair of scissors and I want to reduce just this piece of the fabric that's on the lower portion. I want to reduce that to about 1/4 of an inch. Now I find it's much easier for me if I extend that seam allowance so that there's no chance that I'm going to accidentally cut the fabric that's supposed to stay longer. So I'm just going to ride my scissors down here and kind of eyeball cutting off of 1/4 of an inch. I even ride my fingers down to make sure that I'm not accidentally grabbing any of that. All right, so that's step one. The second step comes when I take this top piece of fabric, that's actually the longer piece, and what I'm going to do now with that, I'll cut that little bit of fabric, I'm going to take that fabric and I'm going to have it meet my previous stitching. And so I'm just going to take my iron and press this down, and it's already rolling over to the side. And you can probably tell where I'm headed next. Now that I've done that, I'm going to open my fabric up. And for this next pass, I'm just going to reinforce the fact that that's tucked down evenly. And I'm going to set that in place. All right? So now that I've got that all finished, it's time to go to the machine. So let's take a look at our foot. So most baby lock feet are snap-on, but this foot is one that comes with its own shank. And to begin to put this on, I'm going to remove the shank that's for the rest of my feet, and let's just slide that out of the way. And in its place, let's screw on that foot. Now you'll probably find that one of the easiest ways to do this is by reaching up and giving yourself that extra little bit of lift and then lowering that foot, and it forces that foot down in place to make it really easy to put the foot back in. And for those of you that have a high shank foot, put that S adapter on first before you introduce the felling foot to your machine, and then by using the advanced driver, you'll be able to quickly get it in place. So now that I have my felling foot in place, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to bring my fabric up to the machine. And I'm just going to finger press this little piece down a little bit more. Because what I'm going to be doing now is I'm going to introduce the fabric in such a way, and this is where my stiletto always comes in handy. What I'm going to do is I'm going to lower the presser foot, and then I'm going to lift this fabric up. So I've lifted this up and I'm putting this fabric underneath the foot. Now, it always feels a little bit messy to begin with, but what I'm going to be doing is riding this down the edge of this fabric, and this is going to help self-guide so that my stitching goes where I want it to go. Now, my needle position is set up for a straight stitch center needle position. I'm going to rotate my hand wheel towards me and just take a couple little stitches to ensure that that's going where I want it to go, and I think that it is. And now with my stiletto in front of me, I'm just going to hold this fabric down, and let's just stitch down on that edge. Now I find that having a stiletto makes it easier for me to have confidence in the foot. And if you've got a presser foot lifter on your machine, this would be a good time too also, that you can just kind of allow the fabric to relax into place. So it sometimes helps if you just give your fabric a little bit of a lift as well. I do this technique quite often where you give your fabric a little bit of lift, and that's what helps kind of keep it in the channel. What you don't want to do is have that pucker up on you. So just take your time as you're going down, using a stiletto if you need to. And obviously, everybody has different projects in mind and different types of fabric. And if you look at the instruction sheet that comes with this foot, you'll notice that we don't recommend really strong heavyweight fabric. And once you've played around with the foot, you'll probably understand why. It's because this opening over here does not accommodate a lot of thickness. But again, I really think that this is the kind of finish that perhaps on the inside of a skirt that you're making, without having to overcast seams, you can really have something that builds a lot of longevity into what you've stitched. So think about French seaming a lot of times on really nice heirloom type garments. This is going to give you that same look, and it'll help self-guide it so that your stitching is right on the edge. It is beautiful. And so this foot, along with many other creative feet, can be found easily at your local Baby Lock retailer.